I, like you, when I think of the spiritual life, think immediately of the show The Office. I know that's what you're always thinking about as you think of the life of faith. And I think specifically today of one particular episode, one particular scene in the last episode. So it's the finale, they're all coming together, we're sort of learning all the stories, how they finish up. And they go to the secretary, Pam, and she says this. She says, "I always thought it was kind of strange whenever you decided to do a documentary on an ordinary paper company." And then she said, "But isn't that the point? That there's a lot of beauty in the ordinary. There's a lot of beauty in the ordinary." I think of that today as we enter back into this season of ordinary time. We've had a very long stretch. We've celebrated the season of Lent, preparing for Easter. We celebrated Easter. And then the past several weekends we've had celebrations to sort of close out that Easter season. And we're finally back to ordinary time. Ordinary time is the most amount of time that we have in our liturgical year. Most of our life in the church is spent in ordinary time. And I think the same is true for our own lives, right? That if you're like me, you want extraordinary things to happen, right? I remember as a seminarian, I would read the lives of the martyrs, and I would just be so inspired, and I would want to be like St. Lawrence. Right? Put me on a grill and roast me, and everybody could know the wonderful things that I did. I could be like St. Paul, right? Courageously preach the gospel, and then at the end of my life be beheaded. And everybody would know the story of Father Broussard. In a lot of ways, that is much easier than simply dealing with the ordinary struggles of our everyday life. Of getting up every single morning and praying. Of waking your children up every Sunday and fussing at them to get ready for Mass and going to Mass. Right? It's those ordinary struggles that really make us who we are. That is how we live out our life of faith. And this is something of the point that Jesus is making in the gospel today. Right, he says that the kingdom of God is as if a man were to scatter on the land and would sleep and rise day and night, and the seed would sprout and grow, but he does not know how. How much more like ordinary life can you get? Right, someone going out and just doing their regular task, sowing seed, watering, taking care of weeds, doing all the things that they have to do, but ultimately, the success of that crop is not up to us. It's up to God to bring about the growth. Right? The same is true in our spiritual life. And another thing that relates is that the farmer every day can go out and look at his land, and he's not going to notice much of a difference from day to day. But if he sees a picture between now and 4 months ago, he's going to notice a big difference. I'm always shocked whenever I drive by. I grew up in going to sugarcane territory. I'm always shocked when I drive by after they've cut the cane. I didn't realize it was that tall because it grew little by little by little. The same is true in our spiritual life, right? I don't notice a very big difference of myself between today and yesterday. There's not a very big difference. But those little changes over time make a huge difference. Right? I think back now to sitting in Mass when I was in high school and listening to the priest preach and saying, "My goodness, he knows so much, I'm never going to know that much about the faith." And I probably never will because he was really smart. Right? But I've come a long way in the knowledge that I have about the faith. I've come a long way in my practice of the faith. Right? It's in those ordinary, normal, daily activities that we grow in our spiritual life. There's an added little bonus for us in the practice of the faith, though. Right? As we practice the faith, the ordinary things that we do are actually incredible. They are extraordinary. Right? Today, we're here. We have a couple of people receiving their first communion. A pretty ordinary thing, right? We receive communion quite frequently. That's extraordinary, that we get to receive the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. That we get to consume the God-man, and that he transforms us to be like himself. An ordinary thing, but it's incredible. It is extraordinary. After Mass, I'm going to baptize 2 babies. It's a pretty regular thing for me. I've done it quite a few times. But it is extraordinary that with the simple pouring of water and saying of words, God comes to dwell in the souls of human beings. Our daily prayer, it's a pretty ordinary thing. But if we really think about what we're doing, it is incredible that God would allow us to be friends with him. And that we can develop that friendship through our prayer. That we can converse with God. That is extraordinary. And so we thank God for the many very ordinary ways that he calls us to grow in our faith. That he calls us to follow him. Because if we really think about it, those ordinary things that he has given us to do over and over again are actually quite extraordinary.